Welcome to Cordkillers. We did it. We killed all the cords, and now we're trying to figure out how to live in the shambles. I'm Tom Merritt. Where's the good stuff, Brian?
Oh, man, the good stuff is, it rains all around us. It turns out that it's raining soup, and what you need is a ladle. Welcome to Ladle, folks.
Latest. I love this. We are your ladle. The world is soup.
Exactly, right?
It doesn't even really work as a metaphor.
Do fish know that they're wet? Do you know that all the good stuff is all around you?
It's everywhere you want to be. Well, folks, this is the show that tries to make sense of all that soup. So let's dip our ladle into the latest and see what you would like to binge eat.
Supply run, supply run, supply run.
Well, the beef's in the soup, of course. Netflix pioneered the binge model of TV, giving you all the episodes of a season at once for you to decide how to pace them out. The idea was that if you don't have a linear channel that you have to fill, you're not trying to beat the other channel with ratings in a particular time slot. You don't need to parcel out episodes artificially. Just give folks the whole batch. They can watch them on their own schedule. Now, the argument against this has been that's bad for buzz. If people watch whole seasons in a weekend, as they tend to do, there was only 1 week's worth of buzz instead of 10 or 12 or more. You also don't get fans building up tension from week to week, wondering what's going to happen next. 12 years on from the premiere of House of Cards on Netflix, the models continue to vary. I don't think I would have predicted that 12 years ago. Even within networks, they do it differently. Netflix will chunk seasons into 2 or 3 releases sometimes. And if it partners with a domestic broadcaster somewhere, it will often stick to a traditional weekly release. Other streaming services have experimented with multiple types of releases, including the traditional once a week from the start, but sometimes giving you 2 or 3 episodes at the start, then going to 1 a week. Sometimes they'll release 2 episodes a week. Hacks did that. Weekly releases benefit from inside the episode segments at the end of the show that give you some insights into the production and then whet your appetite for the next episode. Brian, should we settle on one of these models eventually, or is this the future? Like, there's just always going to be a mix.
So historically, these things, whatever the entity is, whether it is a brand or whether it's a type of story or a type of music or you name it, the name of the game in evolution of all stripes is divergence, constant divergence. The moment a tribe gets too big, it splits into 2 tribes. Again and again, we see this kind of pattern happening. So I would say that it's very unlikely that we're going to take different models and mush them together and pick one favorite and stick to it. I think it's much more likely that all of them are going to kind of exist at different times. When Netflix was first to pioneer the binging model, it made sense as a press release to release everything at once to lean into what made them unique, the binging aspect. At the time, our co-host, Justin Robert Young, he thought that was absolutely insane for exactly that water cooler reason. You don't get the week after week nature that we get from buzz, like with Game of Thrones. In this case, Netflix continued to do that for a while, but meanwhile, Hulu did the week after week, and we've seen the emergence of also kind of a hybrid model. HBO released 3 episodes of Our Flag Means Death, and then 3 episodes more. And then others of them, Amazon pioneered a batch release followed by week after week. I don't see any need for any one of these methods to give up because some of them play very, very well for comedy procedurals. Some of them you want to give enough of a narrative hook that people will get on the hook for week after week. And given the fact that different types of stories all have their own different modalities, I don't see any way that we go uniform anything.
Yeah, I think this would have surprised me if I step through my portal back to the beginning of Cordkillers and say, that mix of models you have now will continue. I will be like, time travel's not real. You're a fake. Even though Sora hasn't been invented yet. And I am not surprised now that it seems to stick. And I think you're right. We're going to have a mix of models. What's happened is not, well, binging has taken over or binging failed and we're going back to serial releases. What's happened is we've realized that there are different models for different types of content, like you were talking about. And that should have been obvious from the fact that we always binged. You could buy, even in the VHS days, you could buy a box set of a television show, and then you watched it on your own schedule. You didn't, pace yourself like, I will only watch one episode on this VHS tape every week. You just watched it when you could. And even in the early 2000s, you'd go buy DVDs and you'd buy a DVD box set and then you'd watch it. And then when you'd catch up, you'd feel frustrated that you didn't have the option to continue to binge. I think on release schedules, we thought, because we want to binge when we're catching up, that will be the future. Everyone will always want to binge. I think we realized that sometimes we don't. Sometimes we like to go week to week. Sometimes we need to go week to week because we'll feel pressured to watch and then we might stop. Whereas if it's paced out week to week for us, it's a nice little treat that arrives on Wednesday or Thursday or whenever it drops, right? And having things out of our control sometimes is a blessing because it's one less decision you have to make. You're like, I watch this episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds when it arrives. And the blessing on top of that is I don't have to watch it immediately. I don't have to sit down at 8:00 and watch it. I can watch it the next day or the day after, but I know it's going to be paced out like that. Well, I wonder if there is a particular kind of genre, because you mentioned the comedy thing. Is there a particular kind of genre that we'll start to understand like, of course that's being released as a binge because that genre works better that way? Or will binge start to feel like a little bit of it must be a niche program, or maybe it's a direct to DVD movie style thing. Like, they're binging that one. I guess it's not that good.
I don't know, because there are certain things that we want to have be big events, but also like we've also seen these modalities change in just the written word. For example, back in Charles Dickens's day, the idea of releasing a novel, it was called a novel because it was novel to release a whole story at once. Before that, everything was serialized in the newspapers. I believe Christmas Carol was one of those week over week ones, right?
Oh, pretty much all of Dickens' stuff was. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and then meanwhile, Stephen King, of course, he brought back serialization. The Green Mile was released in monthly little chunks, and he began that book not knowing how it was going to end. And of course, the form dictated, or the function dictated the form on it. I don't know if I'm getting that right. The
form
content was
the
shaped.
Function. Yeah.
But the point is we've kind of seen this in other experiments with the written word. And I don't know, I'd hate to say it, but it's like as ridiculous as the entire Quibi experiment was. I'm glad that it existed. I'm glad people tinkered with whatever that model was. Turns out it was a bad idea. But I suspect that there are other modalities of storytelling that have yet to be discovered. For example, we're going to talk in After Talk about the release of Sora. By the way, that's a tease for all you about to be patrons who are about to go to patreon.com/Cordkillers. But I can totally see kind of an interactive story where you get to inject your characters, your loved ones in it, your cameos. You get to prompt aspects of it, and it becomes a shared narrative experience.
Yeah, I think stories that have a lot of tension and suspense and, I really want to know what's going to happen next, fit that model where you're going to be like, I want to talk up to my friends and family about what I think is going to happen in the next episode, right? If it's just like you say, like a comedy or romantic comedy, or, I even think weirdly that procedurals benefit from binge releases because it doesn't matter, that you're watching them once a week, twice a week, or all in a weekend, right? They're just a collection of stories. So I am curious to see what these buckets end up being, I guess.
Yeah, so a procedural would be kind of like, I don't know, a blended whiskey or something, where it's like, if you have any one sip, it's the same all the way through. Whereas a big prestige drama is going to be more like, I don't know, a layer cake or something, where it's like, it's going to taste different at the beginning than at the end. Yeah,
I guess a big prestige drama like a Mare of Easttown or something has suspense and tension, but you kind of want to consume it like a book. I just want to keep watching it. And I watch TV shows like that sometimes, like books, where I don't stop at the end of an episode. I just stop when I need to take a break or I run out of time, and I pick up in the middle of episodes all the time because they're just one long running story. but there are episodes where they clearly are trying to keep you on the hook for next time. And those, when you binge them, actually kind of feel weird. You're excited because you're like, ooh, I could satisfy my craving for that immediately, but the rhythm is off. Whereas if they were meant to be binged all at once, you don't need to do that. And the ones that are meant to be binged all at once, as we've talked about a lot of times, don't play well if you're forced to watch them week to week because you're like, that was kind of boring. It didn't go anywhere.
Well,
whereas if you were binging it, you wouldn't notice that.
Well, and likewise, I mean, we could throw another wrinkle in there. Not that everybody is programming for the full experience, but we see the different textures in a full experience watch for one of those layer cake versus blended whiskey kind of events.
Yeah. Now I want to drink whiskey. While I binge a television show about whiskey.
I mean, if only you could afford a bottle of whiskey. Just $1 an episode. That's all it would take, Tom.
But how many patrons would we need to get me a bottle of whiskey?
I think 3,000, 5,000, 10,000. I mean, we
Well,
want
it
to get
depends
you
on the
a
whiskey.
very good bottle of whiskey, Tom.
Yeah, are we talking Bullet? Are we talking Blanton's? Like, what level of Patreon are we at right now?
Whatever is the best. All we know is that if you guys get value from our incredible little live stream that went independent low these 15 years ago, started off as, what was it, Frame Rate back in the day? I forgot the name of the original show.
I know, it's been that long ago.
Yeah. But Cordkillers, you keep us loud, live, and independent. And you fabulous patrons over at patreon.com/Cordkillers get the bulk of our attention, our love, our affection. It's really you that we're talking to week after week for 15 years and counting. Head on over to patreon.com/Cordkillers. Give us $1 an episode. Join the ranks of the elite, the proud, the folks who get early access to the full experience and exclusive access to the After Talk.
If we end up next week with 10 more patrons than we have right now, I will drink whiskey during the show next week.
Oh, hello. Saucy Tom. Bring our new favorite character, Saucy Tom Merritt.
It's like those old DJs where they would like, we're demonstrating the effects of alcohol. I'm going to take a shot every 5 minutes during this hour, the last hour of my show.
Good thing. Don't drive. It proceeds to just drive.
It just drives home. Yeah, because it was the 80s. All right, let's move on to the search party. We have another trailer for Frankenstein, the Guillermo del Toro adaptation of Frankenstein.
Yeah, by the way, what was the pitch on this? What if young Frankenstein was old and not funny?
Yes, exactly. If that sounds good to you, it's coming to theaters October 17th and then streams on Netflix starting November 7th. Did you watch the trailer?
I missed it. How was it? I liked the setting.
You get
of
to
the
see
first
more
one.
of the monster this time. This trailer is, hold on, the last trailer I saw the characters, but what about Frankenstein's monster? What does he look like? You get a lot more of that.
Did that excite you at all? Because to be honest, that whole I remember being bummed at the first trailer where I'm like, oh, that's right. Ultimately, it's about making a monster.
Yeah, it neither added nor detracted from my anticipation of this. It was sort of a wash. On the one hand, I think they seem to have done a very good job giving the monster a character and agency, which he often doesn't have in adaptations, but does have in the book. They sort of hint towards that. On the other hand, it's like, oh, it's a dark. I'll tell you what. Here's my summation of the trailer, Brian. The part that I got most excited on was when it said "from the maker of The Shape of Water," and I was like, oh yeah, I really liked that one. so maybe this will be good.
So maybe there'll be a sexy mute nurse who wants Frankenstein.
FanDuel Sports Network is going to create a whip around format for pre-games where it dips in and out of games from the 15 regional FanDuel sports networks out there. Also hopes to get agreements with other regional sports networks so it can add in those games. But the whip around format, Brian, is of course when you're on the pregame and you check in on the games that are happening before the game you're about to watch starts.
Yeah, I don't mind that experience either. It's really interesting. Once you get comfortable with the idea of constant divergence, then the idea of like, what even is a program? Like there's a raw feed of things happening.
Yeah.
And maybe the program is a rock skipping across all of them. Maybe the program is watching all 4 presentations
The
at the
weird
exact
thing
same
about
time
this,
on a quad.
the weird thing is they're only going to have the rights to go to 15 of the games, because they only have 15 regional networks. Normally, if you're ESPN or you usually see this on a sports-owned network, like I'm on the Major League Baseball network, and they can go to every game, right? Because they're Major League Baseball, they can do that. FanDuel is going to be like, well, we'd love to take you to the Dodgers game, but Sportsnet LA is not part of our agreement. So we'll just tell you about that one.
Do you think that they're going to try to get leverage that way on that? Do you think that they're going to kind of like,
it sounds to me like somebody in a meeting said, how do we take better advantage of the content across all 15 of our regional networks? And somebody came up with this.
So would you say that our first 2 stories are related in that this is a real Frankenstein
Yeah.
of agreements?
Yeah, but they don't have all the parts for this one. Peaky Blinders sequel series from Stephen Knight has been ordered for 2 seasons at a go. You'll be able to see it on Netflix in most of the world and on the BBC in places where the BBC broadcasts, like the United Kingdom. Cillian Murphy is going to executive produce. There'll be 2 new 6-hour-long seasons or series, depending if you're on the BBC. This will carry on from the 6th season and the movie Peaky Blinder, but tell the story of the next generation. So it's Peaky Blinders, the next generation.
Did you get fully invested in Peaky Blinders? I gave it the first few episodes.
I watched a couple and I enjoyed them, but it was one of those ones that I forgot to go back. There's shows I don't like and stop. And then there's shows that I watch all the way to the end. And then there's shows that somehow I just forget to go back and keep watching. And this was one of those.
This is, if we can touch back real quick on that binge modality, I think that much like novels come out now, and then we wait until our friends happen to be reading that in the book club, or maybe somebody gives a personal recommendation because you want to kind of live in that same artistic space as someone at the same time. That I think that there's a number of very good shows, trademark, that are just fine, but I'm just waiting on my friends to happen to be watching at the same time for me to dive in on.
Yeah. I think it is a victim of that. And also a victim of, because you could binge it, I always knew I could go back. I did, there was part of me that's like, oh yeah, the rest of them are sitting there. Like that happens with series where everything is available sometimes. Mm-hmm. CNN Max, the cable news network's live news stream, which is a different stream from the CNN you get on cable, but does have overlapping shows, will no longer be available on HBO Max starting November 17th. HBO Max will continue to stream CNN originals on demand, but if you want the CNN stream, then you have to go get the CNN-only streaming service called CNN coming this autumn, which they haven't given a launch date for. But presumably it's going to happen before November 17th. At least I would think so.
Yeah, CNN, man, going through changes. They grow up so fast, they get real...
No one's ever accused CNN of knowing what it's doing in the last 10, 15 years, so it doesn't shock me. I was convinced that CNN would continue to stream in HBO Max. And now that I'm saying it out loud, part of me wonders if maybe the move here is you're going to get the broadcast CNN in HBO Max, because it doesn't make any sense to me that you would have a competitive streaming offering that doesn't have a premier news element to it. Peacock has NBC News. Paramount Plus has CBS News. Disney Plus has ABC News. They all do it in different ways.
Comes up with their own coverage, like on election night.
Exactly. So I don't understand why you would take that out of HBO Max, which is when they announced they were going to do the CNN streaming service. I was like, oh, so that'll be like the Fox Nation to Fox One, right? There'll be some extra programming on Fox Nation, but it's not like they'll take Fox News out of Fox One. Instead, they are. So I wonder if it's making way for the regular CNN to show up in HBO Max, which would actually then make this all make sense for me.
Yeah. Well, also, if only CNN exists to make sense to Tom Merritt.
I know, right? I mean, it's a fool's hope. I don't even watch CNN anymore. I haven't been able to watch it for years. But there's part of me, that grew up watching CNN in the 80s and 90s. And I actually got digital cable in 2000 because I wanted to watch the election unfold in Florida with the hanging chads and all of that. So yeah, it's the whole thing. Netflix has ordered a competition series based on the game Clue and also on the movie too. So they're going to use both of those, but it's going to be like a Squid Game, but Clue.
I kind of love it. Basically, just as Squid Games was able to make relevant all of those childhood games like Red Light, Green Light, and on, the ability to essentially, what's the party game, Assassin or something, where you go around and whisper to someone?
Or Mafia.
Yeah. Like, or Secret Hitler or one of those kind of games.
Yeah, exactly. Or Last of Us. No, not Last of Us.
I was about to say, that's a hard left turn, but I'm there for it. You know those classic games. Secret Hitler, The Last of Us.
Oh, Among Us. That's what I was trying to say.
Among Us, yes.
Yeah. Netflix has unveiled the trailer for Phil Johnston's The Twits, an animated adaptation of the Roald Dahl children's book that is coming out October 17th. I am familiar with almost all of Roald Dahl's works. This is one that I know was written by him, but if I read it as a child, I don't remember anything about it. So it didn't particularly speak to me.
That's one of those, like, I know that there's a couple of Philip K. Dick properties that haven't been fully harvested left. And there are times I wonder if I should dive in and see them before or read them before they get made into something. But then I decide, I got work
Clans
to do
of the
today.
Alphane Moon. There's one for you. And the number one movie this weekend was an album release party. Taylor Swift's The Official Release Party of a Showgirl, which was not only a movie about her 12th studio album, but also the only way to watch her music video until Sunday. The album came out Thursday. You could go to the theater and see the music video, or you could wait till Sunday when it dropped on YouTube. Brought in an estimated $46 million over the weekend, $33 million domestic.
That's blockbuster territory, man. That's big. I've heard some chatter that we've talked before about how movie theaters are sitting on incredible bandwidth and that, I'm bullish on some kind of presentation live show hybrid or whatever. So whenever I see something like this, like the number one movie at the box office being essentially just let's get together and watch a music video, I really hope theaters start tinkering and do increasingly experimental stuff.
Yeah. I wouldn't be shocked if in, let's say, 2 years, we are seeing stories, theaters booming, end of the window, best thing to ever happen, unlocked innovation. And now theaters have more things competing for their space than they ever thought. Because basically the idea of like doing a LAN party in a theater for a while was like, wow, you can do something else in a theater than watch a movie? That's crazy. I think we're going to see a lot of things like this, a lot of different kinds of things like this. And yes, theaters won't be as pervasive as they were when that was the only way to watch video before television. But I think the ones that survive are going to be hopping. I think there's going to be a lot going on in them.
Yeah. And it's so wild how theaters have this opportunity now that there aren't blockbusters calling the shots. Theaters now have the freedom to act kind of like the old Alamo Drafthouse did back in the days where technically they couldn't show a Saturday Night Live episode or a documentary about Andy Kaufman, but they could advertise that they were having an Andy Kaufman party, he says with air quotes. And then who knows what will be on. Guess what? It was the special on Andy Kaufman. Similar to, they had Atari 2600 tournaments, there are sing-alongs and stuff. I really hope that more theaters try more of the crazy stuff.
Yeah, agreed. Me too. All right, let's move on to the buried treasure.
Most people want to know why they suddenly got rich.
Buried treasure.
The buried treasure, you might wonder, is the section of the show where we talk about something we've been watching. Brian, what you've been watching that people might want to add to their to-watch list?
So
Should
I
such a
got
thing
the
exist.
experience. First of all, I went to the movie theater and saw Weapons Blind when I originally saw it. Knew nothing about it. By the end of that movie, I was like, "This movie rules." Well, I don't know what I expected, but it wasn't this. And then I got to watch it again with one Andrew Heaton, and knowing what was coming, enjoyed it just as much the second time. It's a very good movie.
So
Watch
your buried
Weapons.
treasure is watch Andrew Heaton watch Weapons.
Well, if you have the means,
If you
highly
have an
recommend
Andrew
it.
Heaton in your life. Yeah, no, that's cool. Mine isn't even a show. Mine is praise for the progress that has brought me the ability to authenticate my DirecTV stream subscription in the MLB app. Because now that I can do that, I don't have to go to the DirecTV app to watch baseball. I just open the baseball app and I don't have to think, oh, wait a minute, that one's blacked out because I get it on DirecTV. Let me go to the other app. I just put on the TV stream. And if there's two games I want to watch at the same time, I can double box them in the MLB app. I can have one big and one small. This was a little frustrating last Friday, third to last day of the season, when there was a game that was blacked out on MLB app, and I have no idea why. It just didn't. I think it must have been a glitch. But otherwise, it's all worked. Usually in the postseason, they're like, nope, this is a national broadcast. You can't watch it here. All I had to do was log in with my DirecTV account, and it was like, great, here you go. You can watch all the TBS and Fox games and ESPN all right in here in the same app. They'll get credit. They get paid. Nobody worries about it. It was great. So it was sort of a tiny window into the world someday where we don't have to think about blackouts. We just say, I like this thing. How much is it? I can afford that. And then you get it.
So oftentimes, the closer to perfection you get, the more you see the gaps and the edges that need to be sanded down. How close are you to baseball nirvana?
I mean, this is pretty close. If I didn't have to manage multiple logins, if I could just be like, I don't even pay. I get MLB at bat through T-Mobile. But if I could be like, for an extra $10, you'll get all the games, including the Dodgers, and you don't have to manage a subscription at a different place. That would be perfect right there.
By the way, there's a little bit of chatter in the chat, and Willie Scott said something that I have no memory of. He said that we covered back in Spoiler in Time days, the Gilligan's Island podcast or TV show. Do you remember that?
In Spoiler in Time?
Yeah. And did we just watch the pilot of that? I'm sorry to derail the show, but this is breaking news. Old men can't remember a thing.
Yeah. I don't.
It's Spoiler in Time, episode 4.
I sort of remember watching Gilligan's Island, but I thought it was the full experience that we did, not a Spoiler in Time.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I don't know. I don't know.
Huh?
Crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We'll take our 3-day tour and figure that out. If you got something we should be on the lookout for, email us cordkillers@gmail.com. Speaking of email, I would like you to sign up for my Substack, which isn't even email anymore.
Okay, explain to me where Substack is at these days, because originally
it's in your mind, man.
Okay, no, I'm not trying to be obtuse here. I mean, like, it's becoming something different than just a free or get paid to email people thing, right? It's becoming its own animal.
Yeah. So you still have the premise of like, I can sign up for Tom's newsletter at Tom's free newsletter, freetomnewsletter.com, freetomnewsletter.com. And then I will email you every Friday. Lately, it's been my thoughts about stuff. In fact, Fridays, this last Friday, I had a column or an opinion piece, whatever you want to call it, about how TV is a chore now. Like, so many shows, I feel like, I have to watch that. And it's because we have too much TV. If you want more about that, go to freetomnewsletter.com. You can get it emailed to you. Or if you have the Substack app, you'll just get a little notification. It's like, Tom just posted his thing, and then you tap on it and then you can read it and it's all right in there. And I'm finding more and more people are doing that and leaving comments through that, as are getting the email and then emailing me back, which you can also do.
Very cool.
Yeah, freetomnewsletter.com.
I feel like you have to say it so many times because you said it wrong once.
I did, yeah. So I had to say it at least 3,
Yep.
freetomnewsletter.com. Let's scan the horizon now.
Send a scanning to abort.
Scanning the horizon!
I almost made this the main topic because it's about branding, but I felt like most of the territory is territory we've covered recently. But Disney is replacing its Star brand, which is a brand it uses on its international streaming services and has used it for a long time. There was Hotstar before Disney Plus, and it is going to call the Star section. Disney is its kids stuff or family-friendly stuff. Star is the grown-up stuff. The Star section will now be called Hulu internationally.
All right. You know what? I'm okay with this. I'll allow it, Tom. I think that
Bob
that
Iger will be
Hulu-
so relieved.
I think that Hulu is struggling to know exactly what it means. And especially that's one of the nice things about regional international releases is that you could try interesting local titles and stuff. And so if Hulu doesn't really mean anything on the international stage, then this seems a fine use of that.
Yeah. I'm curious what they do in Japan, where Nihon TV owns the right to call a streaming service Hulu. It's now part of a bundled subscription with Disney Plus for Japanese consumers, actually. So that's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But otherwise, you're right. Like, it's no problem to be like, oh, you don't know what Hulu is? Hulu is all our grown-up stuff. But isn't Star a better name?
No.
Too
Hulu
generic?
So Hulu is very specific. Star is very, very mushy. I think that's too mushy to sell and to wedge into a Disney shaped hole. Whereas Hulu, 4 letters, fun to say. It means plumage. I think Hulu was an exceptional coup of a word, and I still am blown away the fact that Hulu was built to fail and yet somehow, despite all odds, ended up crushing it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people thought Hulu would just get retired as a brand eventually by Disney and subsumed into Disney Plus, but instead it's being expanded as a brand. So that's interesting to watch as well. That bundle of ESPN and Fox One that gives you a big swath of sports in the US went live Thursday, October 2nd. It costs $40 a month. That saves you $10 a month over buying them individually. And Televisa Univision channels went off of YouTube TV, even though YouTube TV was able to come to an agreement with NBC Universal to keep NBC stuff on. They are continuing to talk about the carriage agreement, but they agreed somehow. They have a continuing resolution to keep NBC stuff on YouTube TV, but they could not come to an agreement with Univision. So that stuff is gone for the moment.
Carriage disputes. Some things never go out of fashion.
I was interested to see that the president of the United States weighed in saying, YouTube, you should carry Univision.
I mean, not for nothing. One of the things he's legit an expert in is this kind of thing.
He didn't say that about NBC either. Paramount has officially purchased Barry Weiss's The Free Press and will name her editor-in-chief of CBS News. Here's the interesting part. This is more of a news journalism story than a Cordkiller story, but it crosses over a little. Barry Weiss is going to report directly to the Paramount CEO and chairman, David Ellison, and then Tom Chabrowski will remain president of CBS News and report to Paramount's chair of TV media, George Cheeks. You sometimes see this when you want to make sure that you are preserving editorial integrity. Because your editor-in-chief has to report to somebody. So I've seen it in newspapers before where the editor-in-chief reports directly to the owner, to the publisher, so to speak. And then everybody else reports to the general manager who handles sales and all that. And that keeps the sales pressures somewhat separate, although, they're still in the same company, but it keeps it somewhat separate. So it seems like that's what they're doing, is saying we want to keep Barry Weiss away from as much of the business side pressure as possible.
I think that's a pretty smart move. I heard it asked on other programs whether or not this was a coronation of the free press or a scathing indictment of the status of CBS. And
the answer is yes.
Yes, exactly, right? But it does seem to be a significant opportunity to kind of at least have the called shot goal of returning to kind of monoculture journalism, where it's like, we're going to give the actual facts and all this stuff. Whether or not it turns out to be shaded, who knows? We'll see.
Yeah. The U.S. state of California passed a bill signed into law Monday that says entities that stream video over the internet, quote, shall not transmit the audio of commercial advertisements louder than the video content the advertisements accompany. And then went on to say this is consistent with regulations by the FCC. The law prohibits private lawsuits as well. So only the state of California can punish streamers that violate this law. The regulation it refers to is the U.S. Federal Commercial Advertisement Loudness Mitigation Act, or COMM Act, which was passed in 2010 and bars the audio of TV commercials from being broadcast louder than TV programs on cable and broadcast and multi-channel distributors.
You cannot legislate intent. You cannot cause everybody who's advertising to be polite. You could legislate the laws, the rules, the specific, the knobs, the dials, the decibels, but eventually what they're really saying is stop making commercials so annoying. But of course, the goalposts just keep on pivoting as to what constitutes annoying.
Well, the streamers actually have been working on this because they know people complain. They get the emails of people who complain. What this has done is hurried up the timeline, right? Yeah, they want to fix it, but they've got other priorities. Most of those priorities are going to generate revenue a lot faster and easier to track than, leveling out the audio. Also, in the world of TV video ads on streaming, you're pulling these things in at the time you're serving them. It's not like a TV station where you get the videotape like back in the old days, and then you play it and you're like, oh, this one's loud. Let's make sure to play this one at a 3 instead of a 6. So it's a little bit harder to monitor. It's not impossible, but you have to do a little more work to even that stuff out.
Well,
this law says get that done by July next year. Because there's a July deadline for them to comply to this.
But meanwhile, we know that psychologically, like the developer of MP3, dude figured out at a young age, he was working tech at a sound place and they brought in new speakers and nobody thought they were loud enough. So he went to Radio Shack and got a $2 part that simply was a hard limiter that added a little bit of that peaking noise, and everybody agreed, even though that technically the decibels were lower, the music was clearly louder. So all of these psychological cues, I mean, if I were in advertising, says the guy who is in advertising, I would just artificially add the artifacts of loudness, and then of course that's going to annoy people just as much.
Yeah. So I think this is going to cause this to get fixed, because this is also the kind of thing that you fix in California. You're just going to let that fix go everywhere. You're not going to check IP addresses and go, oh, wait, don't put the equalized audio for Utah viewers. Tickets are now on sale for Netflix's first Netflix House location, opening November 12th at King of Prussia in Philadelphia, a suburb of Philadelphia. Prices will vary depending on date, time, and activity you want to try. The base price is $39 if you're doing a feature experience, $25 if you're doing a Netflix virtual. That's kind of a VR thing where you become a character in a Netflix show. And then 9-hole mini golf costs you $15. You can do photo ops, the store, the theater, and the restaurant without having to pay to get in. Obviously, you have to pay for your food or anything you buy in the store. A Dallas site at Galleria Dallas is opening December 11th, and Netflix plans to open a third location in Las Vegas in 2027.
That's so funny because, like, when I hear this sampling of things to do, I'm like, those have nothing to do with each other. I'm like, unlike, let's say, a roller coaster and a teacup ride and, every other theme park character type thing.
Yeah. I think it's going to be interesting to see how many people want to pay $39 for this. It seems high to me, But Netflix is pretty good at pricing this stuff, so I don't know.
I think people are hungry just for literally anything new and different. I mean, in a world where movie theaters are struggling, the idea of any kind of new type of pop-up entertainment, I think could go over real well.
All right, let's move on to Le Chateau.
Got mail.
Amar writes, hey y'all, I found Corey's email quite interesting. On Craven the Hunter, I disagree that it was good, but what I will say is that it was a heck of a lot of fun to watch. The action scenes were quite enjoyable, and there are a lot of them, which helps because the parts of the movie that suck are the ones where people are talking. I'd actually recommend it. On his other question, yes, there is a streaming service that lets you watch every game from your favorite team if you're in the market, NFL Plus Premium. In fact, you can also watch primetime games on there as well. The catch is you can only watch those games on your phone. I left that out because I assumed he was talking about watch on television, but Amar's right. If you are cool watching them on your phone, you can do it this way. The only content NFL Plus Premium lets you watch on a TV are full game replays, NFL Network, NFL Red Zone, and the NFL Channel, which is already free. For Buried Treasure, I'd like to recommend Thursday Night Football on Twitch. I enjoy watching it with the live chat running on the side. It's pretty unique, as Fox One and ESPN Unlimited don't have this feature. Have you watched Thursday Night Football on Twitch? And if so, what were your thoughts on the experience? I have not watched it on Twitch.
I rather love the addition of the social proof of seeing the stream off to the side. I think that could be a very, essentially... I always thought it was weird when people would go physically to football games and then listen to the AM radio calling the game that they're watching. But of course, what they're getting is a deeper, richer, fuller experience. They get all the social proof, they get to see the game, and they get the context from talented people who know more of the story. I like the idea that there's another type of social proof vector besides crowd cheering, but also specifically being able to see what people say as it goes by.
Yeah, and then YouTube did the Brazil game, which also had the chat, right? So that is interesting, where Amazon has a game, they can put it on Twitch. Where Google gets a game for YouTube TV, they can put it on YouTube, right? Will that pressure Peacock, ESPN to add in a chat feature, an interactive feature? And how badly will that go when they feel that pressure?
That's one of those... If you do that, if you play the social proof game, then you don't want to be caught apparently having an empty room. That's one of the things that would be a reason for them not to do it, because most people don't identify those services with being lean forward interactive in there.
Yeah. I will try to watch Thursday Night Football, which I never do, so that I can report back on this for Amar. Awesome. Michael wanted to point out that we could do yearly subscriptions on YouTube.
Yeah, well, but specifically what Michael pointed out was that there are some people who are not fans of Patreon, and I thought it was fascinating that he brought up the idea of just buying an annual subscription straight from the online store. He mentioned scam stuff, but that whole stepping outside of the ecosystem would have seemed very odd a while ago. But our story, Tom, exists in more than this one program. Many people are experiencing this after the fact via audio. Some people are watching live as this happens. Other people will experience it as the stories you and I write on our email lists. I thought that was a fascinating question to think about, like how else to monetize outside of the structure of Patreon. Now that Patreon and Substack have broken the seal of getting paid outside of existing structures, what else might be possible?
Yeah. No worries. All right. Let's wrap it up there. Thanks everybody for watching. Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. And we are live on twitch.tv/nightattack and youtube.com/modernrogue Tuesdays at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Pacific. I reckon we'll talk to you next time.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.